Peace and blessings, everybody. This is BroYosef. I'm back with another video. In this video here, I'm going to talk about something that I get a lot of questions about, especially in email. People email me a lot about this question here. And what we're going to talk about today is how did I start my spiritual journey? Okay, how did BroYosef start out in spirituality? What were the things that he started doing? What was the first thing he studied? And what made him want to be spiritual? Okay. And it's not going to be a long video, but I'm just going to tell you guys the truth about everything that I got into and you know the basic overall understanding of how I got started in my spiritual path. Okay, so to start this video out, it all happened for me, guys, in about 2006, right? And I want you guys to understand I was never a young, gifted spiritual child. I was never a person that always saw spirits or ghosts. I was never that type of person. For me, it all started in 2006. I'm just gonna be honest. Um, so I want this video to encourage people, who feel like somebody else may be more gifted than them spiritually, and that's not really true. Everybody has gifts, and anybody can develop themselves to the point where they become really good, and they can develop any spiritual gift they want, right? And some people are born with them, of course. But what I'm trying to say is that you can develop your spiritual gifts and learn how to, use spiritual gifts to the point where you're better than a person who's born with the gift, right? Because you developed it more, you worked harder at it, right? So, with that being said, in 2006, I was getting ready to get married. And what happened was, and this is how it all started for me. What happened was, I moved in with my mother to save money for my wedding. And, so I'm getting ready to get married. I'm a young man, probably about 25 at this time. And, one particular night, I was sleeping in a bed. And this is the first spiritual experience I could ever remember having, right? I was sleeping in my bed, and all of a sudden, I opened my eyes and I was standing up outside my body. So I started looking around and I started figuring out wondering what was going on. And in my mind, I thought I was sleepwalking, right? This is how it all started. So I'm standing up. I was sleeping, and I noticed I'm standing up, and I'm thinking I'm sleepwalking. So I turn around to get back in my bed, and as I turn around to get back in the bed, I saw my body laying in bed. So this is my first also OBE, what they call out of body experience. So I'm laying in my bed. I'm saying, wow, how am I laying there and I'm standing here? So I tried to get back in my body, and there was like a bubble or some kind of force that was actually stopping me from getting back in my body. Okay, and basically what happened was, um, I got compelled to go to the window of the attic that I was staying in my mother's house. So I went over to the window, and as I walked towards the window and looked out the window, I saw in the distance a bunch of clouds in the sky, and the clouds just like slowly just scattered away. And now there's nothing but blue skies in the sky. In this blue sky, I saw a rainbow with a circle flying through the sky. This circular rainbow was just flying through the sky. And as it was flying, it went behind the sun. I'll never forget, it went behind the sun, and it came up to my window. And then when it came up to my window, there was this man he looked about 12 feet tall. He was sitting on a gold chair, a gold throne. He had a crown on his head. He had on all white, and he had on gold sandals. His hair was black and curly. And, he looked very, like really important. You know what I'm saying? Almost like a prophet, God. Like I had all these different emotions when I saw him, you know, and I didn't know who he was at the time. So he disappeared off the chair. He's standing up in my house now, and he's about maybe 6'2". So his height shrunk, and he's standing up in the attic with me. He's got his hands behind his back. He's looking at me, smiling. And as he's looking at me, smiling, he reaches out and I'm backing up. I'm like, whoa, what's going on? Should I bow down? Is this Jesus Christ? And I knew it wasn't Jesus, because Jesus would have never led me away from the church if Jesus was real, right? So for all the Christians who watch this video and say, oh, that was the Lord, that was Jesus, No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. So, as I'm looking at this man, he reaches out his hand and he says, "Come here, son." And when he said those words, "Come here, son," something resonated with me in my soul. It's like my soul recognized his voice. And for the first time in my life, I felt my soul, right? I knew that it was a part of me that was also me, but it was separate from my physical body, but it was living in my physical body. That part of me felt this man or this God say, "Come here, son." And when he said that, I started like tearing up and crying. And it's like I've been waiting to hear that voice. I can't explain it, guys. I can't explain it, but when I heard his voice, it's like a part of me was waiting to hear it. And when I heard it, I felt compelled to go to him, and I reached my hand out to touch him. And when I touched him, we touched hands, and I flew back into my body as soon as I touched his hand. I literally felt my hand slide off of his hand. Really smooth hand he had, really soft, but it was like really strong at the same time. And I touched his hand, I flew back into my body. That's how I started my spiritual path. That was my first spiritual experience ever. So when I flew back into my body, of course, I woke up trying to tell my family. They didn't want to hear it. My mama said, "Oh, that was Jesus. That was the Lord." But all of a sudden that day, I started getting a desire to read books, a desire to read books. And I remember I thinking, okay, maybe I should read Christian books. But Christian books wasn't doing it for me. So I started reading Christian books that go deeper into like government conspiracy Christian books. I started getting into stuff like that. And that wasn't like scratching the scratch I had. So I totally started reading Christianity. I started reading the Bible, and I was a hardcore Christian at this time, up and coming minister. I was a Sunday school teacher. I was a deacon. I was in the church heavy. So I left all. I stopped reading the Bible and started reading things outside of the Bible to see if what I was reading in the Bible was true and to see if the Bible was true. So the first thing I started reading, guys, when I woke up spiritually, I started studying history because I needed to prove to myself and show myself that the Bible wasn't what I thought it was. So I started to read through history, started to understand what that was. And after I read through history and I was able to prove to myself that Jesus was a created thing in history, um, it helped my ego quiet a little bit because the ego was trying to convince me, "Oh man, you're reading the wrong thing. You need to get back into the Bible, blah, blah, blah." So for all the people who's getting out of church now, study history. Study the Council of Nicaea. Study what happened in 332 AD. Study all these things. Study who Jesus really was. Then I started studying the devil and who the devil really was and what we thought the devil was and all this stuff. So I studied Islam, Catholicism, Hinduism, Buddhism. I study all different types of religions. Mormonism, Jehovah's Witness. I studied everything. Got it all up here to this day. And I was able to convince myself that religion wasn't what I was looking for anymore. And I still stayed in church for a while, but during church, because I knew I had to slowly pull away, because I was just getting married. And during my time in church, I would study these things in secret and slowly pull away from the church. And a few people started to notice like something was different about me. And in 2009, I eventually left the church. In 2009, I was done. I studied real heavy. I was convinced that Christianity wasn't for me anymore. It was like January 2009. I'll never forget. I left the church alone. Once I left the church alone, I stopped studying history so much and I started studying government conspiracies, what the government is doing. Because I thought that the person who put me in this religion had to do with government. And I started getting into the whole black consciousness thing. I got into that real heavy. And then I got out of that real quick. I got out of the whole black consciousness thing because I realized it was deeper than that for all the people that stuck in the black consciousness thing. There's nothing wrong with that because that has a lot to do with teaching you who you are and helping you realize a part of who you are, but it's not your true self. It's important at one stage, but it comes a time where you just need to be conscious. It doesn't need to have anything to do with race, and I'm just gonna be honest about that. So I got out of the black consciousness thing. And I still have a lot of respect for them to this day. And I started studying, like I said, government conspiracies, black consciousness, and then I started getting into studying, you know, metaphysics. Actually, I started studying aliens, right? I started getting into aliens, and I started having UFO experiences. I literally started seeing UFOs. My wife for a long time thought I was crazy until I showed her one. In 2011, I showed her her first UFO, and she eventually left the church in 2011. But between the time of 2007 and 2009, or 2010, our marriage was kind of rocky. You know, she didn't like a lot of books I was reading. She thought it was devil books and stuff like this. And eventually she woke up and she became conscious and spiritual. So I'm grateful for that. So 2011, I'm in deep into the extraterrestrials. I could do videos about every alien group. I could say stuff that I know people never heard of on the internet. But why? The information is already out there. And talking about extraterrestrial information is like low level information. I'm just going to be honest with you because they're literally one dimension above us. And I'm talking about all these extraterrestrial groups. Now, you can call anything outside of Earth extraterrestrial, even a god, right? And that will be true. But I'm talking about fourth dimensional entities that the people hear about, being the Pleiadians and the, Octurians and the, you know, um, the Greys and the reptilians and insectoids. Like, I know stories about all those different groups. And yes, they are all real. Yes, I totally understand that, right? But people get stuck there and it's deeper than that. So what happened was I literally kept coming to different information. I would reach a ceiling, right? And I would ask myself a question: should I stay here or should I just burst past the ceiling and see what's next? So that's exactly what I did. From government conspiracy history to government conspiracies to studying extraterrestrial information. Heavy, right? Um, got out of extraterrestrial information, I realized it was deeper than that. And I started studying spirituality. And when I started studying spirituality, I went very deep. And the first thing, and I want you guys to really know this part because some people will shock when I say this. But the first part of spirituality I started studying, the first system was Wicca, believe it or not. And I became a dope ass Wiccan. And I studied Wicca real heavy. I trust me, got down with all the Yulis and I did all my full moon, I did all my moon rituals. I wore my pentagram. You know what I'm saying? I had my lady and my lord. I had the altar set up. Like, I was a real Wiccan. I got real good at Wiccan. I was doing fairy magic and literally connecting with fairy energy while I was a Wiccan and connecting with a lot of nature spirits while I was a Wiccan. So I did the Wicca um, real heavy. And then I stopped doing I pretty much got real good at that system and I wanted to go deeper and I wanted to see what the dark side looked like, you know? So I'm going to be honest with you guys. I got really deep into the dark side, right? And this is why I love protection magic to this day because I know the dark side, how they going to come at you, right? I dealt with demons real heavy, elder demons, younger demons. I dealt with the Kalip real heavy. And I'm not saying that this stuff is evil because it's not evil at all. It's just another polarity. And that's why I did it. I want to deal with the other polarity of energy. Um, so I started studying. I got into Satanism. I wasn't a Satanist, but I started studying all the satanic stuff. I did a lot of the rituals. Um, I got dark, man. And I didn't have my consciousness was very minimum back then. I'm going to be honest. I was still a good person. But at the same time, there was no mercy. Like, you crossed me, I was gonna get you. Pretty, period, point blank. I was gonna get you, you know, and I didn't care. I didn't care, and it was a lot of power. I gained a lot of power during that time, and that type of power can be consuming, depending on it's different when you're just working with demons, or you're working with jinns, or you're working with certain negative elementals. But when you not only working with them, but you practicing to gain the power, right, of these dark energies, like, it takes it to a whole nother level. You know what I'm saying? When you trying to become something, like, it takes it to a whole nother level. So I totally consumed the dark side. I'm just gonna keep it real. I did a lot of things I regret. Because some things I shouldn't have took that far. You know what I'm saying? And some people got hurt, behind it. I'm just gonna keep it real. And you know, A lot of it I wish I would have never did, but I was ignorant. I was young. I was wise at the same time of how I was picking it up, but I didn't know, with power you got to be very careful because karma. I wasn't a big person of karma back then, um, and I had to clean up a lot of my karma based on that. So, and I wasn't trying to be evil or bad. It's just that I wanted to walk that left hand path, and I don't even believe in the left or right hand path, but I wanted to walk it so I can totally absorb the energy and understand what this thing was about. And I did. I went deep as I can go. I'm just gonna keep it real. Dealt with a lot of demons, a lot of demonic energy, and you know, met a lot of dark witches and dark sorcerers and stuff like that. And then it came to the point where I was like, okay, I did this dark thing long enough. I want to go back to the other side and I want to study everything all together and see what it's about. And that's kind of what I do today. If somebody had to put a label on me, it would be more of a middle pather. I use what works. And I look at some people and I'm like, man, y'all don't know what dark side is. I still keep like a little black chest under my stairs in the basement. That's for protection for me and my family. And I just keep that thing away. It calls me sometimes. I'm gonna keep it real. When you're dealing that energy a long time, sometimes that power will call you. But I don't submit to it. Because my soul is more powerful than that. So with that being said, I'm just keeping it real with you guys. Like I doubled in that, I dabbled in that left hand path, what people call left hand path, very heavily, very heavily. And you know, it's not nothing evil. It's not even nothing that's bad. I'm just gonna say if you're gonna deal with it real heavy, just be careful because it's powerful energy. You gotta know what you're doing. You can't play with that stuff. You gotta really know what you're doing. So yeah, brother Yusef walked on the dark side and became very known in my city, by certain people, and I left it alone, you know. And this is why my favorite type of magic is protection magic because I know how the dark side is gonna come at you. I know how these parasitic entities. I know how parasitic entities work. I used to send parasitic entities at people to purposely steal their energy. I used to do that type of stuff. Um, but only to people who crossed me. I would never mess with an innocent person ever. I never bother innocent people. So, with that being said, I studied that, and then I came back to the middle, and I started just being a scientist, being an alchemist, and I started putting and fusing all of these different formulas, whether people call them dark or light, together. And today, from doing all the practices I did, like I don't even read books as much as I used to. I rarely read books today. My information mostly comes from traveling the astral plane and from practices, the practices and the results I get from doing spiritual practices. And I'm going to reveal more about the spiritual practices that I do very soon. One of them is a very simple spiritual practice that some people heard about, some people haven't, but it's one of the spiritual practices I do a lot because it's simple and it's very effective. So there'll be a video coming up on that very soon. So yeah, so now that's how I pretty much started my path. That's my story in a nutshell. I could have made it longer, but that's pretty much my story. That's the story of Brother Yusuf and how I started my spiritual journey. And I'm only telling you guys this so you guys can know it took me years. Like, even though I woke up in 2006, I don't count the time I woke up until 2007. So I count 2007 to 2019. So it took me years to get to where I am today. And I wanted to say this to encourage you guys. Don't be so hard on yourself, when you're practicing magic and doing spirituality, because life will get in the way. Life will mess you up. Life's job is to distract you. I don't believe that life is a gift. We're down here because of karma. Let's keep it real. You can make life a gift. I mean, you can make life into something good. And I'm not saying this to make anybody feel bad. All I'm saying is understand life for what it is. Life is here to test you. Period, point blank. Yeah, good things happen to you in your life. And you can enjoy life like I do. I enjoy life. But at the same time, I know how to deal with life. It's like a person that give you a lot of good stuff, but at the same time, they funny, right? And that's how life is. Life is funny. Some people say life is a bitch, and it's 100% facts. Cool 1 minute, and then life will just flip on you, and you like, yo, where is this coming from? That's life. You got to understand life for what it is. BroYosef, prepare for the worst and hope for the best every day. That's kind of how I live my life. But I know how to do that mentally without being down and feeling down. I feel happy with life, but I understand what life is. And that's what I want to do in this video. I want to encourage you guys to keep moving forward by telling you guys my story and how all the different things that I've studied to get to where I am today. I just didn't study one system or one thing and watch YouTube videos. 2006, 2007, YouTube just hit the scene. So I was reading a lot of books before I was even watching videos, and doing a lot of practices and studies and being scared at night thinking was a spirit going to come in my house because I did this ritual. And I'm going to keep it real. I have had spirits come in my house, and the spirits who come in my house to this day. But those are mostly my ancestors. I see my ancestors walking through my house all the time. Sometimes I'll be asleep at night and I wake up and I'll see a family member of mine or something walking through my house. I see that all the time. Sometimes it'll be spirits that I want in my house, But for the most part, I don't, I'm pretty much, my house is like warded off pretty powerfully. And with that being said, I don't want you guys to be afraid when you're doing rituals or feeling like the only way you're going to grow spiritually is when only if you do a ritual. No, you need to read books too, because you need to get an understanding of what you're doing. Okay? You need to get an understanding of what you're doing. So, that's how I started my spiritual path. I had a spiritual experience with a God, and that God is actually the God Heru. And it's also the person in the picture that I showed you guys, the man made out of fire. That's in his glorified state or higher self body. But that was the oversoul of the gods of war, in so many words. That person. And he's been revealed to me as Lord Indra from India, but also recently as the god Heru. They're different personalities, and you should deal with them as different personalities. But just like you can have a soul family, they got different personalities, but they all one soul. It's the same thing with a lot of these gods. The reason why there's so many different gods of war or goddesses of love or whatever is because there's really one person who was called different names in different cultures. And they dress that person differently. Like me, my family called me JoJo, right? But other people call me Joe. Other people call me my original name. And then I got people that call me Yusef, And then I got like a tattoo on my arm. People call me Rocky. My auntie called me Rocky, So I got so many different names. And guess what? All those people are me. But it's still one person. It represents one person. That's how these gods are. So the person that came to me was literally the oversoul of the gods of war. And the gods of war is actually the spiritual lineage that I come from. And I'm put on this planet to be a spiritual warrior and to help people to teach people and help people to defend themselves and how to fight the dark forces and also fight the dark forces within yourself. Because the biggest enemy you're ever going to have is never going to be outside of you. It's always going to be your own self is the biggest demon you're ever going to fight. And as you grow, new level, new devil. That's just a fact. So, everyone has a higher self that they can strive to be and strive to be like. So I wanted to just get on here, talk to you guys about this video to encourage you and let you know that it took me time to develop myself and get myself to the information that I have and the know-how that I have based on spirituality. It took me years to get here. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears, literally. Like BroYosef cried a lot of nights because I felt lonely and I was afraid. I don't hurt myself. I ain't gonna say how. I don't hurt myself in some ways doing rituals. So I done been in rooms for hours trying to work magic. So when I say blood, sweat, and tears, like I'm telling y'all the truth. Like it went down. Like I know. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not calling myself a master. I ran. Anybody who really knows me, Like they know I ran from being a teacher for a long time. It's not something I wanted to do. It's not something I still don't want to do, be a teacher. I'd rather just be quiet and to myself, you know. But this is my destiny. I have to share my information with people, you know. And that's what I plan on doing. So it's gonna be a lot more coming. And soon we're gonna take it up to the next level. It's gonna be a lot of 102 classes coming up, Dragon Magic, crystals. It's gonna be a lot more information coming up. And the plan is soon to have this website up and going so I can give you guys some real classes on things that I know, and really expose you guys to some stuff that I know you never heard on the internet before. All right. So with that being said, I hope you guys were encouraged by this video, to continue to push forward in your magic and your spirituality. And I hope this video taught somebody something. All right. So this is just a random video I want to do to get on here and encourage you guys. All right. So until next time, peace, family.